Hello everybody and welcome to TJ's Lego Room, and this week I was really excited. My channel hit 2,000 subscribers, which is really cool. Wasn't that long ago that I was at 1,000. I was really excited for that, so thank you again. Getting us to 2,000. I hope I can make it worth the subscription for you. I know subscriptions cost so much money for everybody, so thank you for spending your hard-earned dollar bucks on the subscription to my channel. All right. So anyway, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I kind of have a YouTuber that I follow a lot for designs. His name is E.C. Henry. And wow, he does some really good work. If you want some 3D design awesomeness for Star Wars ships and other sci-fi vessels and things, check him out. He's pretty awesome. Anyway, just the last couple days ago, he put out a video on the T-49 airspeeder and what it would look like as the civilian version before the rebels militarized it, and what it would look like as like a police version, like a lightly armored version, and then there's even like a forklift carrier grabber arm version, which is kind of cool. But as he was working on that project, I was working on this project right here. So a while back, I discovered the 2016 ILM Design Art Challenge for Star Wars, and it was pretty amazing. I was pretty excited about all the different concept art and thought I could get some really good inspiration. While I was there, I came across an artist named Jesus Conde, and he had some really good art on there. Actually, sorry if I mispronounced the name. I've only ever seen it in print. I've never heard it spoken aloud. But he's from Spain, and so I kind of assume the Jesus Conde would be what I imagined his name is. His ArtStation page is in the description below. Check him out. He has some amazing art. He's really good. Anyway, I came across what he called his T-49 airspeeder, which at first I wasn't super inspired by. But as time went on, I kind of went, oh, it's kind of like the limo version of a snowspeeder. That's kind of cool, right? That's kind of a neat idea. And over time, as I thought about it more and more, I'm like, I could build that. I think I could build that and start with a snowspeeder and kind of go on from there. Now, the instructions for this craft are on Rubricable right now, of course, as always. And so you're welcome to go, and you can help support me there. Well, that's supposed to come off, by the way. It's a feature I will explain later. I promise. But yeah, so the instructions are on Rubricable, link down below. All right. So obviously, when I wanted to build this ship, I started by modifying a snowspeeder. Now, the only snowspeeder I have right now is the desert one that came out fairly recently. That is the last one that I built, the last one that I purchased. I've had a lot of different versions of this craft, including the very first one back in 1999, which I bought from my local Kmart. And unfortunately, I don't have it anymore. But I think I still have the windscreen somewhere. But this is the latest version. And so I took some of the design cues from this, and I looked up some instructions from some of the latest ones, including the, I think it's the 30th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. I'm not 100% sure. Whatever anniversary it was, I looked that up as well. And looked up that model and took some design cues from it and went to the front. I did remove the second seat at the front so that I could add the structural supports in there. But then I wanted to add as many seats as possible, so I took every Rebel Hoth Trooper that I had, and it turns out I have exactly 10. And I made a seat for each one of them, and I think it looks pretty good. The proportions are really close to what Jesus Conde figured out, and that was something I was trying to mirror, because there are certain proportions that just look too long. If I added 2 more rows or even just 1 more row, it looked a little off. Or if it was a little too short, it looked wrong as well. He did a really good job with the proportions, and I wanted to make sure I captured that as best as possible. Now, as you move to the back, I've got the 10 different troops that fit on here. The back end on the wings is a little bit wider. I think it's only a stud wider, but I think that helps give it that kind of arrow shape and makes it look like it all goes together. But after I built all of the front part and had everything, I ended up spending a ton of time on this turret and trying to make it work, because it was actually quite difficult to do. I really wanted to use this piece But obviously it's not in an orientation that it normally is. And so it took quite a while to actually figure out exactly how to get it to the point that it was at. But in the end, we finally got there. So I'll explain this next thing. The top is removable. I know I did it accidentally, but the top is removable, and you can actually get these little container pieces that are on the guy's backrests right behind him. I had originally just thrown these in here as spacers and decoration, but anytime I put a container on a ship, I really want it to be able to use it as a container to store stuff. And so you can imagine that they can put some extra gear inside here. You could even put some binoculars or an extra pair of the goggles or something in there to allow the guys to have some spares while they're traveling around the icy landscape of Hoth. So the other change I made in the when I was going through this actually happened during the instruction phase. So I kind of modified the containers during the instructions, but the real big change that happened is when I got to the turret and I said, you know what? I want to change it again. I want to do an even more different version of the turret. And that part that I added was that there's a knob on the back and you can rotate the turret now with a knob. So that was kind of fun to do. And now it's got a nice little play feature, right? So now I did make some structural changes to the inside as well, so it's nice and sturdy. It does have a lot of the classic snowspeeder things. It has the little fins on the back. It's got the flaps. I used slightly bigger ones than they normally do, just because it's a bigger ship and you need bigger flaps, right? It also has these little turbine things on the side that originally were for powering the big cannons on the front, but I figured they could also be helping to provide some power to the craft, since it would be significantly heavier than a snowspeeder and probably wouldn't hover quite as far off the ground, I would probably imagine. Now there are a couple of extras on the craft that I'm kind of excited to show you, because although this version that I'm showing you here, I really tried to pay homage to the original designer of the T-49 airspeeder, Jesus Conde, and I decided that there was one thing that I would have changed, and that is the turret that I spent so much time on and rebuilt 3 or 4 or 5 different times and then added a rotating mechanism. Let's just change it, right? Why not? Well, I decided to build something a little more traditional for a Hoth vehicle, and that is a Hoth turret, one of those big cannon turrets that we see in the movie. So that just pops right on, and it works with rotation. So let me close that up. And I think that actually looks pretty good, and I think thematically it fits it together really well. Now you can lift this up and put a guy inside there. It does fit. Boop. And then you can look around and woohoo, look at me. So that's one of the little extras that I added on there. Another little addition for this craft is that I came up with a fun nickname for this craft. So after I was working on the instructions and after I was pretty much done with all the design, I decided to try to figure out what this craft would be like if people were actually writing it or using it in Star Wars. And in universe, I imagine that this transport would have some sort of a protective system to protect the troops on the outside from the elements. Either a small deflector shield to stop projectiles, and maybe some sort of environmental system to keep them warm or cool, depending on the situation they're in. But just as they had problems adapting the T-47 to the cold, they also had a couple of issues getting the troop transport here working in the freezing cold as well. So the comfort system had a tendency to struggle in the icy Hoth winds, and some of the troopers' boots would end up getting frozen to the ship as they traveled. So this eventually led the rebels to nickname the ships Carbonite Transport, or Carboniters, as they would occasionally freeze a couple of the troopers' boots to the footrests as though they were frozen in carbonite. Just a little fun little addition to the thing. Although I wonder also if I should have named it the stretch snowspeeder, like a stretch limo. It's the stretch snowspeeder, right? I don't know. I think the carboniter's kind of fun too, since the guys would end up frozen to the craft at the end. Kind of a fun little thing. So anyway, thanks for checking out TJ's Lego Room. I am super excited that we passed the 2,000 subscriber mark. Thanks to everybody who purchased the instructions, and we will catch you next time in TJ's Lego Room. Bye.